Good evening, everyone. This is Nick Spordone from the Battery Park City Authority, and welcome to ReadyBPC Winter Preparedness. I hope everyone had a happy and healthy Thanksgiving with the family and friends, and thank you all for attending this evening. I am joined tonight by Mr. Kevin Leung, Program Manager for Individual Preparedness at the New York City Office of Emergency Management. We thank Kevin and the team for making themselves available for us and the residents of Battery Park City. You know, the authority had launched ReadyBPC this past spring in keeping with our strategic goal of supporting and augmenting the safety and security services here within Battery Park City. And ReadyBPC is aimed at doing just that, educating and engaging our community around risk awareness, preparedness, and disaster response. So in June, we had an introductory session, and we wanted to now follow up as the weather starts to change about winter preparedness, and some of the considerations that come along with that. So we are going to get started then in that vein. I'm going to turn it over to Kevin. I will say that as we get started, if you have any questions, please simply type them in the chat, or you can raise your hand, and once the presentation is through, we can have you ask your question of the panelists here. I'll also note that the session is being recorded, so anyone who's not able to join tonight or would like to get more ReadyBPC, they will be able to access this recording in short order on our YouTube page, along with the rest of the ReadyBPC programs and sessions we have hosted and will be hosting. So with that, thank you everyone again for joining. And I'm going now to turn it over to the pro, Kevin, who will talk to us a little bit about winter preparedness. Kevin.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So yeah, give me 1 second. Let me share my screen. Oh, you have disabled screen sharing. If you could just enable that, I'll be able to.
Kevin, I just made you the host. Let me know if that works for you.
Awesome. Let me take a look. Yes, that works perfectly. Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome. Can you guys see this? Can everyone see this? All right.
See it. Yep.
Perfect. So yeah, so we're going to go through a little brief overview on winter preparedness. It's something that we have seen come more and more often in the past couple of years. Snowstorms have been getting a little bit crazier, and winters has been coming a little bit later and lasting a little bit longer into the springtime. So yeah, we'll start off with this. My name is Kevin Leung. I am the program manager for individual preparedness at New York City Emergency Management, and we take care of doing all the presentations to the public. And what we do at New York City Emergency Management is our main goal is to really help New Yorkers before, during, and after emergencies through preparedness, education, and response. The agency is really responsible for coordinating citywide emergency planning and response for all types of emergencies and scale. It's staffed by more than 200, close to 300 now, dedicated professionals with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise, really including individuals assigned from various different departments from New York City, such as the police department, the fire department, the Department of Buildings, so on and so forth. And really our most important part is to educate the public. That's what I do. That's what our main goal is to make sure that everyone who lives in New York City has the right tools and information to be prepared for any type of emergency. And within that, we have about 4 outreach programs, each really catering to specific needs of the community. The first one is the Ready New York program, which is what I'm in charge of at the moment. We are basically the educational preparedness program for New Yorkers to really give everyone the tools and necessary information to face and mitigate emergencies that can happen anytime and anywhere within New York City. We also have a community emergency response team, which is our volunteer arm of the department. really training all these volunteers in basic response skills such as fire safety, life search and rescue, disaster medical operations, and traffic control. And our CERT team, CERT, really supports their local community by assisting with emergency education and response. We have our emergency preparedness program, which our community preparedness program, which really brings together local leaders and promote grassroots emergency preparedness and volunteerism. And we also have our partners in preparedness program, which really works with nonprofits and works with small businesses and large businesses to really prepare their employees and services and facilitate emergency preparedness in that regard. So to really begin things off, the one thing I want everyone to do when you do have a chance is to download the My Emergency Plan at nyc.gov/readyny. I see a typo on there. It should be lower. It should be ready, not read NY, but that's my apologies. And yeah, for that, you can download the My Emergency Plan that has the most up-to-date information on how to be prepared. It also has stuff including COVID-19, as well as hurricane, as well as if you live in a basement dwelling, so on and so forth. It really gives you all the necessary tools and is really up to date with what has happened to the city in the past 3 to 5 years to give everyone the necessary tools to be prepared. And just to give you a brief overview of what emergency preparedness is and what are the steps you need to be prepared, we usually have it in 3 simple steps. Number 1 is we want people to make a plan. Number 2, we want people to gather supplies. And we want people to stay informed on what emergencies and how is the next best way to be prepared. We'll dive in on this a little bit later. I want to talk a little bit about winter preparedness first before we head into what really entails in these 3 simple steps. So first thing first is winter weather. It comes every year. We always say that it doesn't snow that much. It hasn't snowed that much, but every single year we're hit with at least 1, maybe 2 major snowstorms. I believe the last big one that I remember was Winter Storm Jonas, which was, I think, about 4 or 5 years ago, give or take. And that was when the city shut down for a couple days, and it really just disrupted everything. I remember about 2 or 3 years ago, we did have the squalls, is what we called it, and that's kind of like where people were trapped on the highway for about 12 hours. Kids were in school buses for 13, 14 hours. It was a huge mess. And yeah, winter storms do happen, and we need to know how to be prepared for that. Winter weather can pose a lot of serious hazards, mostly utility disruptions, transit disruptions, down trees, school closures, health risks, and flooding. People say flooding. What's going on with that is a winter storm doesn't just come and go. It always has after effects, such as a lot of snowstorms, creates a lot of snow, and once it gets warmer, flooding will arise. And that's kind of what we saw with a lot of these winter storms, was a lot of the low-lying areas, such as Battery Park City, such as the Far Rockaways, Coney Island, and parts of San Juan has received a lot of flooding due to snowstorms because it gets warm really quickly too for some reason, and that water doesn't have anywhere to go. So what do we do during a winter storm or extreme cold? We usually tell people in emergencies is to know your evacuation route, know where to go, know how to leave your home in a quick and orderly fashion or manner, and know where your meeting points are. But for winter storms or extreme cold, we want people to really shelter in place. That's kind of the most safest place you can be when one of these winter weather events happen. Sheltering in place means that you are away and sheltered away from the extreme cold, sheltered away from the blaring snowstorm. And what happens in snowstorms? The roads get slick, the roads get dark. Sometimes there are utility disruptions because the heavy snow is impacting down wires and so on and so forth. And it could be quite dangerous outside. So we want people to stay safe and really stay at home. And given the past 2 years now, we've gotten pretty good at it. We've gotten pretty good at staying at home, sheltering in place, and staying at home for long periods of time. And during a winter storm or extreme cold, this is really what we want people to do, is we want people to kind of stay at home. We want people to also heed to travel bans. There's a reason why we don't want people on the road when these winter storms happen. Roads aren't always clean the most efficient way or the fastest. We only have X amount of plows only have X amount of salt spreaders, and we can't fix the city all in one go. So we would love for people to stay at home, heed the travel bans, and really let the city, let the infrastructure companies do their work to kind of clear the streets. So in the next day or two, people have the ability to go about their normal lives. If there are more cars on the road, that makes our jobs a lot harder, which really hinders our ability to get people back to their normal day-to-day activities. So heeding to travel bans and sheltering in place is really the best thing you can do for your community, not just for yourself, but also making sure that the city goes back to normal as fast as possible. Also, infants, seniors, and people with disabilities or access functional needs are at an increased risk of hypothermia and frostbite. So we always want to be able to check on friends, check on relatives and neighbors who may need assistance to really ensure that they are adequately protected from the cold. Maybe someone doesn't have heat and you might have to call 311 for them, or you might have to invite them over just in case something's happening because a water line broke or something like that. You want to make sure that your friends, families, relatives, neighbors are all properly safe and secure. And community members that identify someone on the street that they believe needs assistance should also contact 311. Unfortunately, we live in a beautiful city, in a great city, but there is a homeless population that we also need to make sure that we look out for. If you're on the street and you see someone that is on the floor shivering or not protected, call 311 and we'll have a mobile outreach response team to really make sure that people who are homeless or people who are living on the streets have the ability to be protected, just as any other New Yorker has the right to from the city. And the Department of Homeless Services really will send out their outreach team to the location to assess the individual's condition and take the appropriate action. And if you suspect anyone that's suffering from frostbite or hypothermia, bring him or her to someplace warm and seek medical help immediately by calling 911. And also, we would love for everyone to really do their part to support us, support New York City, and how to be prepared and mitigate these snowstorms. First thing is when you see a downed tree, down electricity wires or heat, or if there's heat loss, or if you see someone in need of assistance, calling 311 really allows us to make sure that we are properly informed, because we can only have so many police officers, so many civil service workers out on the streets kind of looking at everything. We really do rely on people calling in 311 to help. It's just like how I tell people is, if you work for a company and they post a survey, a lot of the people won't put out the survey because they're like, no one reads these surveys. But in reality, we read these surveys because it's literally our jobs. It's literally our jobs to read these surveys. And it's just like any other situation is when people write something, we have to look at it and we have to see what's going on. So by calling 311 is just technically the survey where you're able to kind of check up and see where are all the damages being assessed, where are all the damages happening, and where do we need to send our resources to. So even though you may think we don't read these surveys, or we don't respond to these, this information is actually tracked and it funnels into our database to make sure and see where everything is happening. So calling 311 really does help. You also want to check on your neighbors. Again, I've said this multiple times already, but checking on your neighbors is super important. Sure, emergency services are always there, but you know your neighbors. You know if you haven't heard from them, seen them, or seen their light on at their apartment, you know something's wrong. We don't know that. We would literally need to be called first in order to support you. So checking in on your neighbors, even with a simple phone call, is really helpful. And if you do have a chance, we want you to clear snow and dangling ice from roofs, curb cuts, and hydrants. This really helps us do our job a little bit faster, get things cleared up a little bit faster. But I think one of the most important things is to make sure that if you are clearing ice or clearing snow from wherever you live, is you want to always be layered. You don't want to be bundled up in one big sweatshirt or big coat, because sometimes you do get hot and we don't want you to suffer from hypothermia if you do take off a layer or two. Also, you wouldn't want to run a marathon without being prepared, and shoveling snow is very much the same thing. I personally have known friends and their parents that have died because they were shoveling snow. Someone got a heart attack And what happened was, it was just one of my friend's dads, and it was a big snowstorm. I think it was actually the Jonas snowstorm back a couple years ago. And he went out to go shovel snow. And after a couple hours, they didn't see him come back home. And they found him basically dead on the street, shoveling snow. So these things happen. If you know someone just like me, I know people who are older, who aren't in the best of shape, and they say, I'm going to go shovel snow. I was like, no, it's fine. I may not be there, but I'm going to find someone to come shovel for you, or let me just give you some money. It's not a big deal. I'd rather you be safe and have people who are more fit do it for you, because shoveling snow is a huge workout. Think about it. You're carrying 10 pounds for hours on end with a shovel. That's not the best mechanical for your back or for your heart. So it's really, really important that if you are going to shovel snow, is you take a lot of breaks in between, you hydrate properly, or if you just don't think you're able to do it, find someone who can do it. And again, take a lot of breaks when you do want to shovel snow. So besides all that, winter preparedness, what other ways can we stay prepared for the upcoming winter season, upcoming snowstorms that we know we're all going to get? If anyone didn't notice, we got a little sprinkle of snow this afternoon. Thank goodness it was a little bit warmer on the ground, nothing stuck. Me personally, I hate snow because that is where we have the most problems, and it affects everyone. But you know, my childhood self would love it because I got to skip school. It was great. I got to play in the snow until it got dark, or the snow got black, and that was fun stuff. But we want to be prepared for winter, and one of the best ways to be prepared for winter is by staying informed, signing up for our free emergency alert from Notify NYC, or following us on NYC Emergency Management on social media, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, so on and so forth. We have everything on social media you're able to think about. And if you follow us, if you sign up for emergency alert from Notify NYC, you'll get the most up-to-date information. Weather patterns change all the time, and we're only at the whims of the National Weather Service. And they could say one thing, 6 inches here, and then 2 hours later, it's going to be 13 inches. And the best way to get those most up-to-date information is watching TV, listening to the news, but also signing up for our social media pages and Notify NYC. You want to visit New York City Emergency Management's website and the New York City Severe Weather website for tips on how to be more prepared and how to take action on how to be prepared and what to do for your family, what to do for your home. I know that BPC is more in a hyper-focused area, so people's homes, people where you live are a little bit more similar. But again, this is for the entire city. So if you do have somewhere else that you live, or you do have another place within the city or even outside, visiting our website on how to be prepared and how to prepare your home to mitigate all these emergencies and mitigate winter hazards is really, really helpful and important. You also want to listen to us. Please listen to us on any type of announcements. The mayor usually announces a lot of high alerts, up-to-date messages for the city on what to do, what his actions are, and what he wants to do. Yes, we may be getting a mayor. Yes, we may be getting a new mayor soon, but in terms of messaging and what he will say, usually it's us at Emergency Management that will give him some of the tips and some of the advice to say, this is what we should do. We should have a travel ban because we need to clean the streets. We have to do X, Y, and Z. And he'll really emphasize on that on all his mayoral briefs. And we always want to keep extra supplies at home, at work, in your car. You never know when you need them, and it's really, really important to have those up to date. And this is something I've put in a little bit later in the Times because people always complain to me. But New York City, they never clean the streets. You know, New York Sanitation doesn't clean the subway entrances, or so on and so forth, or the sidewalks or the sidewalks and parks aren't clean, or so on, and X, Y, and Z. And I really just put this on here to show who is in charge of snow removal. It's not just one entity. It's not just the Department of Sanitation that cleans the streets, cleans the sidewalks, cleans everything. We actually have multiple partners, multiple people working in some type of weird synchronized fashion where we try to do as much as we can. Streets are labeled as from importance to kind of tertiary status. There is, I believe, primary, secondary, and tertiary status on streets. Main streets and streets close to emergency services such as hospitals, fire departments, police stations, schools will always be cleaned first, and then it kind of breaks down from there. So New York City sanitation does have the bulk of it. They have to clean the streets, they have to clean the side of the crosswalks and the bus stops without shelters. New York City Parks Department have to clean the sidewalks and crosswalks near and in parks. So say Union Square, that's kind of their places and what's around there. Transportation, Department of Transportation cleans the bridges and overpasses. JC Deco, which is actually a private entity that is kind of in charge of all the posters that you see at all the bus shelters. They are in charge of cleaning all the bus shelters and really making sure that those places are clean and safe and salted. And the MTA removes all the entrances to subways as well as any other places that has MTA lines running through them. So it's really a lot more departments working together rather than just one New York City sanitation cleaning everything. So there is a bit of a, I would say, tango that people have to make sure so we don't step on each other's toes, because people do get a little bit territorial in who's allowed to do what, or if they have to do that, they say that's not our job, that's X, Y, and Z's job, that's not their job, that's our job, so on and so forth. So we're here to make sure that everyone cleans everything. So moving past winter preparedness, we want to, moving past winter preparedness, we want to also, again, know what to do in case of an emergency, not just winter preparedness, but what if there's a fire? What if there is a hurricane? So on and so forth. And the most important thing you want to do, the first step in making and being prepared, is you always want to make a plan. You want to be able to create an emergency support network, having people who you are close with know your plan, know that they are in your support network. So when you are in need of help or in need of support, you have the people you can call, such as, for example, my parents who live, I say 40, 50 blocks from me. They are one of my emergency support network contacts. So if, God forbid, I'm in a fire and I have to go somewhere, I will call my parents and say, hey, is it okay if we stay at your place for a couple of days after we get things sorted out? They are also just one of a couple. I have my cousins who live in Brooklyn. I'm from here, so I have a lot of family members that I can always rely on. So that's my emergency support network. I also write down important health and life-saving information. I used to have it on paper in my wallet. I don't carry a wallet anymore. So I put all my health and life-saving information on my phone. That's one place where I have it. I also have it on the cloud, wherever the cloud is, wherever that is, I also have that information. But I also have it written down at my office. I have such as my health insurance number, my primary care doctor's number, and those important stuff that, I don't know off the top of my head. Things like my social and stuff like that, I know off the top of my head. So, I'm able to keep that with me. But really important health and life-saving information, I had that written down in multiple places. Also, my parents have a copy of all my medical records and stuff like that, just in case something does happen. I know I have copies placed in other places. Also, when you make a plan, you want to know when to go and how to evacuate, and really when to stay and shelter in place. Again, emergencies aren't just one cookie cutter emergency that you can be prepared for. There are different types of emergencies that happen everywhere, and it really is dependent on the emergency on either you have to evacuate your home or you have to stay at home, such as a winter storm, you will usually have to shelter in place. But if there's a fire in your apartment, for the most part, you would have to evacuate and leave your home. So we really need to know when to evacuate, when to stay, and how to execute those plans independently. You also want to have a transportation plan. This is more pertaining to winter weather. You want to have a transportation plan in case the subway and buses are not running. In the past 5-6 years, it has been more common where buses subways are stopped running, such as when the COVID-19 pandemic was going on at the peak. Subways weren't running from, I believe, 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. or 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. And people had to plan around it. So you want to have transportation plans, not just relying on subway and buses, but maybe taxis or other alternative means of transportation. Moving on, gathering supplies is also really, really important. We want to be able to pack a go bag. So when we do leave our apartment, we have a bag ready to go, something that is prepared, ready to go at our door with the most important information and supplies that we need in order to really survive and kind of be able to take on the next steps if an emergency does happen in our lives. We want to also put together an emergency supply kit for home, really having 7 days worth of rations. That will be food, water, so on and so forth, extra medicines that you need for you and your family at home in case something does happen, such as a COVID-19 pandemic or a winter storm or some kind of hurricane that can hit our city sometimes. As well as all the special considerations you need. For me, I know I'm a bigger person. I'm 6'1", and I drink a lot more water than my wife does. So I always have a little bit extra water lying around for me as well. And making sure that I have the proper medicine if I am sick, stocked up, ready to go. I always have extra Claritin wherever I go because I'm allergic to everything. So making sure to have that special consideration. So just knowing that you need to be prepared for the things for you and your family. It's great to find all this information online, but again, ask the questions for your family. What does my family need in order to be more comfortable and in order to survive? And our last step really is to stay informed. We want to always be informed on what to do next, how to get information, and what other information can we use in order to be prepared. In New York City, we have multiple ways to receive information. We have the news, we have social media, we have Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all the gambit of things, what we can use to be prepared. We also have Notify NYC. And you can also check on Plow NYC, which is a public information now. It wasn't before, it's public information now on when streets have been plowed, what kind of priority each street is. So I believe I said there was 3. I think I said it wrong. It was critical, sector, and holster is what it is. And those are the 3 priorities that streets have. Critical, again, being the most important ones, main arteries for the city, highways, critical infrastructure areas such as hospitals, so on and so forth. Sector is a little bit more like, say 14th Street, 32nd Street, so on and so forth. And then holster are, again, streets that are not the top, but will get cleared eventually. And then you should also check out our community preparedness website. We have a lot of information to also stay prepared for any type of emergency that can happen. And really staying informed allows us to be prepared for the emergency. Even though we say it's step 3, we also say that it's the first step in being prepared. So I know I ran through a lot of this pretty quickly. Does anyone have any questions? Awesome, seeing none.
Yeah, Kev, I'm not seeing any questions, but again, going once or twice, anybody have any questions, you can either raise your hand and we'll call on you or enter it into the chat. If not, Kevin, really thank you for a really fulsome presentation. Plow NYC brings back some memories. In a former life, I was with the Department of IT and Telecom in the city, and I remember going through the exercise when Plow NYC first came online and tracking a lot of the plows and where they were. So it's good to see that accessible now to the public. It really is a wonderful tool for folks to understand where the plows are and why and when they'll be getting to where they live and the reasons why the city plows prioritizes certain streets for plowing based on usage and and how busy they are and what needs to get through them.
Yeah, it's great. And I was part of trying to really just get it going. I do remember that we used to have a little bit different priority system, and the Department of Sanitation changed it, explained it all to us, and it's a great resource. I use it all the time for work, but I also use it as well to just for my own personal curiosity on what's going on sometimes.
Really is interesting to see how the city works.
Yeah.
Right, be able to track the progress the city's making in real time.
Yeah, we do work sometimes not to people's pleasures or their expectations, but we do try our best. I will say that we do try our best.
I know it well. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Seeing no questions, Kevin, thank you again and the team for the time. We will get this recording up to the YouTube page forthwith, have it then shared via social media, tagging our partners and friends there at OEM. And we will be looking to do the next ReadyBPC session TBD, likely sometime in the spring on the next topic. We'll be in touch on that. And if anyone has any questions, obviously, you can reach BPCA. We'll put my email and contact information in the YouTube video as well. Any questions, we can go that way. And beyond that, unless there are any further additions or questions, we will, which I'm not seeing any, we will sign off. So Kevin, anything else to add?
No, that'd be great. Yeah, just let us know. I don't remember what we did in the springtime. Was it heat preparedness or?
Last spring, what we did was a general introduction.
Got it.
But any number of things. We've gotten some feedback from the community, so we'll continue to get that, whether it's maybe about pets or seniors. There's a lot of different.
Got it. Yeah. We have a lot of presentation. If it's about pets or older adults, we have more specific outreach coordinators that I can set up that can talk about it and really emphasize on the needs and kind of go into the nitty-gritty stuff on it as well.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, again. Kevin, thank you for the time and the attention.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We'll see you soon. Thank you again. This has been ReadyBPC. We'll see everyone soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.